Welcome to the Everyday AI podcast, where I chat with experienced professionals across various fields to understand how AI is shaping their work. I'm thrilled to be joined today by Swagata Ashwani. Swagata wears many hats. As a principal data scientist at Boomi, she's at the forefront of applying AI in the industry. She's also a driving force in the data community, and she heads the Women in Data chapter in San Francisco. If that weren't enough, she's also the host of a podcast called the Data Dojo Podcast. But what truly sets Swagata apart is her strong advocacy for responsible AI, a crucial topic in today's rapidly evolving landscape. So join me as we unravel the impact of AI within data science and delve into the considerations of responsible AI. Let's begin with data science. It's your full-time profession. So let's talk about that first. How did you get into the world of data? What drew you to data science?
Actually, when I was growing up, I know that there are two kinds of kids, people who love maths and people who hate it. And I was in the second category. And I never ever in my wildest dream imagined that this would be my bread and butter later on. Just wanted to finish up maths, and as soon as we get into the 11th, 12th of differentiation and calculus, I'm like, oh my God, just want to pass and never see this again. But life had planned something else, and actually, I did software engineering, I did computer science, and I thought I'll just maybe do an MBA and follow that path. But sometime around 2017, 2016, product design and design thinking was something which was picking up. And I was like, wow, this is very interesting and very, I have a tendency to pick something which is a little bit different. So I'm like, okay, rather than doing conventional software engineering, let's think about product design. I like to think about building a product end to end. And I think product design fits that. You're like the CEO of the product or, something like that. So I went for a master's in CMU, which was very unconventional at that time. It had a Venn diagram of business, engineering, design, and at the cusp of that intersection is what you do, and that seemed very intriguing to me. So I went for it, but I soon realized that it's very high level. I'm a very deep person. I like to go into the details. So I wasn't really satisfied, but didn't know what to do. And a friend of mine at CMU, you're from CMU, so you know that you can't escape ML at all. So machine learning was buzzing at that time, and CMU is one of the best institutes for that. So somebody told me like, hey, this 10601 course, like Intro to ML, just audit this course and see. It's like, you're at CMU, you should just, why not just take a lecture? So I got convinced and I went for that class, and that day it just changed my life because I was very the way maths was taught to me as a child was very different how it was presented, and like, okay, this is very interesting. And I came home and I was just looking into all the linear algebra and things that I had studied in the past, watching YouTube, and for hours immersed into a topic which had never happened to me in very long time. That's when I knew that I was not scared of maths. I was just, never taught it really well. I never understood it really well. I was memorizing it. So that fear of math went away, and I just loved that subject so much. I'm like, this is what I really enjoy, and this is what I want to do. So that's how I got into data science.
Wow, yeah. Machine learning and math is a lot of fun if taught well. I completely agree. So, what do you think? Let's talk about your day to day, right? How has it changed today? What does your day to day as a data scientist look like? And maybe also give us an insight into how you see Gen AI kind of impacting your day to day.
Yeah, I mean, when I started in 2018 working, data science was more about building traditional ML models. To think of like building a forecasting model, a simple linear regression model. And even though data science is not as specific as a software engineering role, but things were still laid out pretty well. Like, okay, you first phase is you understand the domain, what you're doing, and then you collect your data, you do some cleaning, you do some processing, you build a model, you divide your data, train, test, and test it, do some validation, and then deploy that model. So, I mean, going not going into the nuances, but pretty much the workflow was fixed. But coming to the last 2 3 years with Gen AI and all this, it has completely shifted the landscape. I'm not building traditional models at all. Most of my
Mhm.
work day to day is a lot of my time is going into research. What's the new thing that has come up? And then I'm using LLMs for pretty much all the use cases, and not just me, all my peers and all the people I talk to, which is also something I talk about. Like something can be solved with traditional ML or even rule based. That should be. Um, Not everything needs an LLM solution, but we are using LLMs for a lot of things. We use on a day-to-day basis. We use prompt tuning and fine tuning or RAG-based approach. So the overall architecture that you do, you understand, do discovery, do the cleaning, build the model, is still the same, but underlying things what we are doing, we are no longer spending a lot of time in data cleaning and all. We are using LLMs to support that. We still have to do some additional work in terms of like adding guardrails, ethical and responsible AI, all of those things. But typically we are working a lot on prompt engineering, LLM ops on the operation side of it. How do you measure the effectiveness if you're building an agent, for example? How do you measure the effectiveness of the agent? So work-wise, it has drastically shifted, but I think that's the nature of a data science role. Now you have to be very adaptable.
That's true. So it sounds like you're working on a lot of Gen AI projects, right? So I'm also curious to know if it is drastically accelerating any, part of that pipeline for you in terms of productivity.
Yeah, absolutely. Like helping with coding, like not all data scientists are like really good software engineers. And if you're building something production level, it's very important to have those good coding practices that helps us to be more productive with LLM. So we use a lot of code generation tools like Amazon Q to aid us with code completion and writing really good quality software, which used to be not our priority before. We used to write code which functions, does the job, but now we are writing code which is production level comparable to software engineers thanks to AI. And also like automating test cases, right? We are helping the QA teams as well by doing our due diligence really well, because now we can have these automated test generation and all of that with AI. So productivity wise, I definitely see that it has reduced our coding and all of that. But it also scares me a little bit because I have to set aside some time. Every week I try to set aside like an hour or two to just solve some lead code questions or something, because I'm becoming too dependent on AI. It definitely has helped me focus more on the creative aspects of it. Like I focus more on the strategic and creative sides, but at the same time, I don't want to, not use my logical side at all. So productivity wise, it depends on you. I think coding is definitely something that AI has helped me get better at.
No, I completely, relate to that because I feel like you're right, you're absolutely right. As data scientists, we're probably not the best coders, but I find that AI is helping me code really well today. But then one of the things that I often like worry about when I'm writing code with AI is, how much can I trust what's coming out of it, right?
True.
Which
Yeah.
brings us into the whole space of responsible AI. And that's something that, you've been a very strong proponent of. So let's start with that. Maybe, help us or help define responsible AI for somebody who is not introduced to the topic.
Yeah, sure. I think as much as the word explains itself, there are still some nuances that people don't understand. So, responsible AI is, I would say, to simply put it, is about building good algorithms. So, there is a cross section of intelligence with philosophy, and the core idea of building a solution is it has to be fair, explainable, and aligned with human values. So, for some people who are not familiar with them, you can think of about building like a autopilot system for an aeroplane. So you're not just focused on how fast the plane flies, how safely it lands, but it also should think about how the pilot and the passengers understand what it's doing. So that's like the explainability and transparency aspect of it. So we are not only thinking about building features fast, effective. We also need to focus on all the stakeholders, the end user. Are they understanding why we are suggesting them something? Do they feel deceived when we give them some recommendation? So all of those things, fairness, explainability, transparencies, these are the principles that come under responsible AI.
Got it. So are explainability and transparency, do they mean the same thing?
No, there is a slight difference. So, Explainability is about understanding a specific decision a model made, right? And transparency is about understanding the entire AI system, like how it was trained, what was the data, what assumptions were made, who has access to it, what governance processes are in place. So all of this understanding is transparency. And explainability is about, like, let's say I tell you, like, hey, Arvind, you should take vitamin D supplement, but you want to understand like why you need to take that supplement, right? I am explaining you, hey, because you haven't had sun exposure in the past 4 years, your levels are down. So adding that sort of explanation of on a prediction or something that a model is giving you is explainability. Whereas I'm not telling you about what data it is trained on, who has access to it, and all of those governance and everything that goes into that AI system, that comes into transparency.
Got it. So would it be fair to say that transparency is more to do with access to information about, what is happening under the hood, and explainability is more cause and effect. So
Right.
you're able to, kind of determine why you're getting a certain output.
Correct. Yes, you can put it that.
Awesome. So can you give us, just so I can sort of internalize this a little more, right? Can you maybe like call out one or two examples of, where there has been a lapse in responsible AI?
Uh, yes, I think there
Okay.
was this. There have been multiple. I know one that top of my head. There was this Amazon hiring news that I came across that Amazon's recommendation engine was more biased. I think somebody did an experiment where they used the same resume, same credentials, everything. They would just change the name and the gender, or like something which com- just the very high level, maybe change name from a male name to a female name and change the gender or something like that. There was an innate bias in the number of interview calls that same resume was getting. So that is a very big red flag according to me. If you're just changing the name or the gender, but all the credentials, your experience, everything is same, that is a big red flag. Same happened with like an age bias. So that's not the AI's fault as such. That's because of the data that we have. There has been a bias in pay trans like gender gaps in like pay as well as qualifications, all of that. So I think that was one use case that definitely hit the news, and people got more serious about taking action into how do we deal with the data, because the problem is with the data. We can't really blame the AI.
That's right. So I think that one of the things that underpins all of this is ethics, right? So there must be like a drive from the people building these systems to do right, to want to do right,
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
So how do you foster this culture where you want to build responsible AI? What are some maybe good principles or ways to foster this culture within an organization?
I think you have to, when I talk about explainability, not everybody needs to know everything. So, for example, back in 2019, I was working with a health insurance company called Highmark, and we were building solutions for clinicians. So, a clinician whose job is, let's say, a nurse, she or he spends a lot of time in making data entry, right?
Hmm.
And I've seen the tools they use, very outdated. Whereas their primary job is caregiving. They don't need to spend hours of their time in, working on a tool. So I felt like that could be automated, and we built a system that not only fills out that information up to date, keeps it up to date, shows them the difference. So when you enter the patient information, it kind of gives you a comparison. It also gives a prediction. This patient was previously in rehab. So, things that are not on top of the patient's file and easy to access, but aid you in decision making. So our goal was not to replace clinicians. We are just making their lives easier. We are giving them recommendation. Hey, this patient has so and so history. You should recommend them this. And for that to convince them that hey, this is going to help you, they were really reluctant. They thought it's going to replace them, and it was not even AI back then. I mean, it is AI now, but so in order to make them understand, now I understand how much explainability is important. If I had given them more background as to what they need to know, we think that they don't need to know that much, they don't need to know as much tech because their job is not. But if I had sat down and shown them, right, how the model works, what input features are going, I'm not telling them this model, I'm using this regression model or anything like that, but they need to understand how things are working. If I tell them the explainability and what value proposition it would give them, I think they would have been more convinced. So depending on the stakeholders, similarly the user doesn't need to know that. Like user doesn't need to know that level of detail, but he or she might want to know just a one liner. Like I told you, like if a doctor is suggesting me take this tablet, I want to know why, right?
Hmm.
Like just that one liner high level. I don't need to know how that medicine is made, why that particular medicine is suggested right now. I mean, I just need to know why I am given that prescription. So, depending on the stakeholder, it's important to give that sort of explainability, and that culture needs to happen within the people working for the company. So, I try to do that within my organization, and I know a lot of people who are advocates. If they all try to advocate for that within their organization, slowly and steadily it will become not just a nice to have, like a must have.
Right. I completely agree. I think that it starts with that culture, right? As you said, a lot of this also stems from misrepresentation in the data. Sometimes you might just be very like focused on the metrics you want to, achieve. But then
Right.
I think that it's the overall culture of doing right that will push you to be more unbiased with even the systems that you're building.
Absolutely. Just to add to that, like I also feel like we are at a stage where AI systems are so like achieved state of the art and like they're doing so well. This could be a differentiator, right? Like everybody can build like a nice chatbot, everything, but how much can I trust you? That could be a differentiator.
100%. I agree. So these are actually very abstract concepts, right? They're really like, abstract and complex things to even think of, super subjective as well. So what are some good frameworks that maybe you have used in trying to navigate these principles?
Yeah, I mean, there are a bunch of frameworks. The most popular ones are like for explainability, there are two open source libraries that anybody can use. One is called Sharp and one is called Lime. And these are like the most commonly used and very easy to understand and implement. So if you're a developer, you want to experiment and play with explainability, you can use these two libraries, Sharp and Lime. But if you want to get like a more of a framework, end-to-end responsible AI, then there are a couple of them. Like there's one IBM 360. It's called. It's like you can think of it like as a nutrition label for all the AI models. It gives transparency into what are the data sources. It has like fairness tests, performance, and you can add your custom metrics as well that you feel are important. Then there is like Microsoft Responsible AI, which is continuously updating. It's also like a playbook that you can use, and it has like guardrails. We are also coming up, like a lot of companies I know come up with their own guardrails and ethical frameworks, which works best because the amount of customization that you can do is endless with that. But if you want to go with any existing framework for explainability, use Lime or Sharp just to play with. For end-to-end complete responsible AI framework, I think Microsoft Responsible AI and IBM's AI 360 is the best.
Got it. Yes, I will definitely want to dig into these frameworks. It's in fact the first time I'm hearing about it, so that's good. So another thing I wonder about is what do you think are some of the challenges organizations face in trying to adopt these principles?
I think the biggest problem is the urgency that companies have in deploying solutions. Um, a lot of times, like they have this, I have to do this by Q1, so AI agents is the next thing, multi agent framework is the next thing. We have to get to the end of it by this. The urgency and the speed of delivery is what pushes companies to deploy things faster, and this responsible AI becomes like a not low hang, sorry, like a nice to have feature which we will deal with when we need to, but right now it's not as important because it's at the data layer, right? It needs a little bit of time because you have to fix things from the grassroots. It's not, you can't add a layer of explainability and say like I'm doing responsible AI because the data itself is not correct. So, because it needs a lot of due diligence at the grassroots level, and companies are battling against this race in AI, that's where the companies are not able to match the pace.
I think, yeah, that makes sense. You're absolutely right in saying that it has to happen at the grassroots level. It's not like a layer you can add at the end.
Right.
And ultimately, I guess, it's kind of, I would say that investing that time upfront is worth it because end of the day, responsible AI could be a significant differentiator in your product.
Right, yeah.
Awesome. So, are there any initiatives that are coming up that you're particularly interested in? Sorry, excited about?
I think with AI every day something new comes up, but one thing I'm really excited about is the like multimodal AI was when I was doing my research that was just coming up, and I was very intrigued, and now I'm actually seeing that happen at such an advanced level is very fascinating. I think very soon we will be able to produce like proper end-to-end motion pictures with AI, and that would be hyper realistic, not like you can't differentiate between what is AI and what is true. That is also scary. All these Black Mirror episodes are coming true, so we have to, again, that's why I'm like very focused on like how do we identify these deep fakes and scams that are happening. So that entire aspect of, again, like reiterating responsible AI is going to become so important because all the AI advancements are becoming really difficult to differentiate what is AI, what is not AI. I'm excited about multimodal AI. I'm excited about motion pictures, how things are going to play. I'm excited about creator economy because I think initially the biggest hurdle for creators was like what kind of content to create. It's so difficult. The editing is so difficult. I think I envision soon, maybe in a year or so, we will have editing tools where you can just type and prompt and tell like, hey, add this effect at so and so minute and all, and eventually it will be like automatically do it for you. Just tell it what it needs to be done. But in the next iteration, it will be you have to specifically tell what edits to make, and I know that itself is like a lot of pain because you spend a lot of time editing. So creator economy and multimodal AI, I'm very excited about. Also a little scared, but hopefully we'll
What
be.
are the things you're particularly concerned about?
I think like people are able to create their clones, right, very easily now. I've tried that as well. So I can create my clone, which talks like me, uses hand gestures like me, eye movements, everything. So you can't differentiate. So if I put it in good use, for sure I can create more content, but I can try to prank or scam somebody. So that's a layer we need to understand. Like, how do you differentiate?
Yeah, I agree. Those that deep fakes, especially, they scare me too. It's about authenticity, right? Yeah, I wonder a lot about that. Do you think that an AI can replace you and do what you're doing today? Do you think an AI can replace a data scientist?
So I think being very realistic, I know a lot of people say that it's only going to augment and it's not going to replace, but having seen it happen, I think it can, but it really depends on your mindset. So if I am not adaptable today, like let's say I say that I don't want to build and use LLMs, I want to continue building traditional ML models, I will be replaced. So I think the key is people who are adaptable, and you have to be adaptable all the time. Like right now I'm doing prompt engineering, RAG based models. Maybe tomorrow my nature of job would again drastically change. So to survive in this market, not just for a data scientist, for any technical role or non-technical, you have to use AI. You have to integrate AI into your daily practice and see what value addition can you add. Maybe you get better at domain expertise. Maybe you get better at, I see a lot of new roles that are created, like for example, AI developer advocate role, which didn't exist 2 3 years back. So for people who really enjoy staying up to date, but they don't want to be like working in the industry building features, they want to just advise on like, hey, I did this quick POC and this is how it looks, and be the brand ambassadors for the company or whatever they are doing. So if you're able to adapt quickly, you are safe. But if you don't, I think AI can replace you.
I agree, and I think that's true of any field in general, right?
Yeah.
What do you think are the skills that an aspiring data scientist today who's just about to enter college, right? What do
Yeah.
you think are the skills that they should focus on to be relevant in the job market?
Yeah, I think I feel gone are the days for structured learning. So previously we used to take a Udemy or any of these YouTube courses, go lecture by lecture, make notes, experiment. I think we don't have that kind of time and availability. So rather than that, I would say focus on building projects. So if you see, especially follow a lot of good people, get mentors who are already experienced in the industry, they can guide you. First step is that you need to have a mentor. Follow a lot of good people, good data scientists if you're getting into the data science field on LinkedIn. and look at their content so you're up to date. Follow a good newsletter. There's so many bunch of AI newsletters that come up every day. Follow one of those newsletters and stay up to date. Not necessarily newsletter, maybe just stay up to date what's happening. If you see that, hey, this AI agent, multi-agent framework has come up, just look it up, see some blogs and implement it. You cannot no longer look at like multiple YouTube videos or do a course on it. I think that's very time consuming and not fruitful. So just stay up to date with what's happening and just build your profile, put it on GitHub or somewhere that you can showcase in your resume, because more or less companies are now looking for LLM experience, which is never taught in school, nowhere else. So you can't use those school projects anymore because they are mostly traditional ML, which is no longer that viable. So you have to build your own portfolio, upload it on Kaggle or some repository which is public. Yeah, I think that's my advice.
Love it. And especially in a world today where you can literally vibe code any project that you
Right.
have in mind,
Vibe coding.
nothing should stop you. Gone are the days of structured learning. I feel like that's a good point to
Correct.
a good note to end this podcast on.
Yeah.
Thank you, Swagata.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.